Hi, this is Timothy Lotus, and today I'm going to briefly discuss one of the great entrepreneurs of the late 19th century in America. His name was Marcus Daly, and he was one of the copper kings, they called him, of Montana. And he had a very poor beginning in America as an Irish immigrant, sold newspapers on the streets of New York, but he eventually became one of the richest men in America. The Had the largest copper mine in the United States and died a very wealthy man in 1900 and influenced the history of the state of Montana greatly, and also indirectly, eventually, the his company caused was one of the main causes of the panic in 1907, which affected the whole country, even though it was 7 years past his death. But I'll describe that in a minute. Well, Marcus Daly, as I said, he was born in Ireland and came to America as a boy. He went out west and first gained his riches in the Comstock lode in Virginia City of Nevada. Became very interested in mining, learned a lot about it, and eventually he went to Montana, where there was a lot of silver mines opening up in the western part of the state. I've been to Montana once. Don't really have any great connections with the state, but I picked this story because it's interesting, and just recently reading about it in one of the. I purchased books from the 1930s, so that's my area of expertise. And I was recently reading about Marcus Daly, and so it fit in perfect with the topic for this week. Just to brief aside on that. But anyway, he came to Montana, which was a very young territory at the time, and not many people lived there. There was one person named William A. Clark who invested in a lot of mines there. His silver mines was making a lot of money. So Marcus Daly decided to follow in his footsteps and look around the area around Butte, or what became Butte, and found eventually what became known as the richest hill in the world just outside of Butte, and founded the Anaconda Copper Company. The name Anaconda originally came from was made by a Civil War veteran uh, who referred to one of Grant's battles with Lee when his movement was called the Anaconda Formation around Lee's army. But that's the story of why they got the name. But Marcus Daly was the one who made it famous. He went around and he saw the potential for copper because of the growing use of electricity, which was in its infancy. A lot of people didn't see the value in copper yet, but his great genius was his foresight in seeing that electricity was going to make a big influence in the future of American society. And he was able to convince people to give him money to buy this immense mountain, which was filled with had a little silver, but mostly copper. So, and he ended up getting it when copper was not too valuable. And by the late, maybe like 10 years, this is the 1880s. By 1890, copper was soaring in value because of the growing use of electricity. Uh, the land he bought winded up making, over its life, 94,900 tons of copper. Uh, Up until the 20th century, for the 19th century, it was the largest copper lode on Earth that he founded. He became very rich, uh, and he was sort of at war with William A. Clark, who was one of the founders, as I said earlier, of the silver mining in Montana. And they had a great battle over where the capital of Montana was going to be, either Butte, which was near the Anaconda mine, which Daly favored, or Helena, which was William A. Clark's home base. And they winded up, it was going down to a vote of the people, and they winded up spending about $1 million, incredible sum for that day for a territory's population was only 150,000 people, over whether to put it in Butte or Helena. It had a lot to do with the power politics between the two wealthiest men in the territory, Daly and Clark. And Daly lost this battle. Clark won, and Helena became the capital. They both had their own newspapers, and they smeared each other endlessly. It was a great battle for this capital city and the politics of the young state. And but anyway, it was Daly who became wealthier because of his copper mining. Uh, Eventually, global financiers became interested in what he was doing. The Rothschilds bought a quarter of his company. And then just before his death, he sold to Standard Oil, and they founded the Amalgamated Copper Company, which was in a battle with United Copper Company. And it was this battle that drove up the price of copper and created a war on Wall Street, which led to the Panic of 1907 and the collapse of the Knickerbocker Trust, which precipitated the panic. Even though Daly died in 1900, but it was a fascinating life for a poor immigrant who came to this country and was able to have such an immense influence in his life in the United States. And it's a great story if anyone's interested in reading about the life of Marcus Daly and just the way the American dream could be found in that era. Thank you for listening.